Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Youth Have a Voice podcast season 2. My name is Feolami Joseph, and I am really excited for today's episode because I'm joined with one of my friends and also one of my fellow AYCs. Her name is Precious Omelu, and she's going to be talking to us today about her initiative for my boys. So I'm just going to quickly read Precious's bio and we can kick off immediately. Precious is a boys' education advocate and the founder of For My Boys Initiative, which is a non-profit that's working to support and empower secondary school boys who are often overlooked in youth development. Since Precious started her initiative, she has reached over 500 boys in Abuja, Nigeria, through mentorship, academic support, and recognition programs. In 2025, Precious was elected as an Ashoka Young Changemaker, a recognition of her commitment to build a more balanced and inclusive future for education. And that's how Precious and I met. Precious, how are you doing today?
Hi, Feolami. I'm fine, and you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode.
You're welcome. It feels so good to be here.
All right. I just want to know because I've always thought your initiative was really interesting because it's kind of unique from how other people are. I know a lot of people focus on girls and focus on girls' development, but you decided to start For My Boys initiative. So could you let us know more about yourself as a person and what also inspired you to your journey into boys' education and advocacy?
All right. Thank you so much for that question. So I'll just start with this. I would like to start with the father. Education actually gave me an identity. As a young girl that attended a public secondary school, I saw a lot of my classmates, my male classmates, drift academically. They were actually bright students, like really, really bright students, but they were drifting academically. And this was because many of them were forced to prioritize survival over personal growth and development. And so they struggled with identity issues, they struggled with, staying consistent in class and even giving attention, paying attention to the activities that had school activities generally. So I saw this as an issue. And I thought of ways I could, make impact in the life of the boys in my secondary schools. At 15, there were so many organizations that came to my school to visit from time to time. For the girl child specifically, they gave us a lot of advice, personal hygiene, menstrual hygiene, purpose discovery, and all of those things. So I had all the opportunities as a girl child. So being in school then kind of gave me exposure as a girl attending a public secondary school. So I noticed that my male classmates did not have that same exposure. They didn't have that same opportunities that I had as a girl child that was attending a public secondary school. I remember in my SS3, my WAEC and my NECO fee was actually fully funded, like it was paid. And I remember a couple of my male classmates had to even drop out of secondary school just so they could go hustle, just so that they'll be able to afford, the WAEC fee and all of that. And unfortunately, many of them might never return to school. So this was a consistent issue that was happening in my secondary school. And I thought of ways I could actually make impact in the life of those boys. So as at then, it was not the boys in Nigeria, it was not the boys in Africa, it was not the boys in the world, it was the boys in my secondary school. And this is actually the heart of For My Boys Initiative. So For My Boys Initiative is a not-for-profit organization that is dedicated to this cause.
Thank you so much, Precious. I really do think that your story is quite inspiring. As I mentioned before, so many people focus on the girl child, which is also just as important. But then I think a lot of people sometimes neglect the boys, which is something that you decided to focus on based on your own personal experiences. And I really like how you were able to use your background and what was happening at your school to say, okay, you know what, I want to focus on this and I want to be able to help out the boys at my school. And I think that leads me to my next question. So what was the major experience that just made you know, okay, this is what I want to focus on, this is what I want to develop, this is what I want to build on? So what was that one particular experience you had that just made you know that this is what you want to dedicate yourself and your passion towards?
Okay. I I wouldn't say I had just one experience. I had several experiences. Like there were so many experiences. So it's very, very difficult to actually pick one. But I would just say two. So the first one was when my classmates, my male classmates, he lost his dad. And all of a sudden I realized that he was drifting academically. So he wasn't paying so much attention, like I stated earlier. They begin to drift, right? So he wasn't paying so much attention in, class activities and even school activities. And I remember as a then I was actually the class captain back then in SS2. And we were like, okay, let's see how we can, put money together to help out because he lost his dad, and it was I think it was the eldest as at then. He had older siblings as well. So that was actually one. And then the second one was the one that actually prompted me to be like, okay, this is actually what I want to do, was when a particular initiative visited my school. For the very first time, it was about the boy child. For the very first time since I was a student in a public secondary school. And I was like, wow, so something like this actually exists. And a lot of my male classmates, they were so happy. You could just see the joy. You just know that these boys, they've been waiting for someone to listen to them, to at least hear them speak, to a place where a safe place where they can just express themselves. And I noticed that day when the initiative visited for the boy child, I could see the joy, the expression, and everything they actually experienced that day. And I was like, you know what? I think I can do this. So that initiative actually gave me more like a blueprint. Everything I can actually start. I wanted to go out. So that thing, that particular was actually more like a guide, yes, into me starting from.
Wow, thank you so much, Precious. Just to confirm, you can still hear me, right? Okay, yes. All right, thank you so much, Precious. And I think you've kind of really answered my next question, but I will be asking you now. Running, I know that you've mentioned that you were able to kind of have you finally had some experiences in your school when it comes to focusing on boys. And I know that if, for example, in Nigeria, there's a lot of talk about the girl child, which is really important. And I know that a lot of people focus on girls' empowerment. But why do you think that boys also need intentional support and mentorship?
Mm. All right, thank you so much. So to answer that question, most times when we talk about girls' empowerment, we look at the gender inequality, right? So I think that was one of the things that actually prompted the advocacy about, girls' inclusion and, girls' advocacy. So I believe that gender equality isn't choosing one gender over the other. So prioritizing boys doesn't mean neglecting girls. And I strongly believe that for us to build a truly equal world, we have to prioritize both genders. So if we prioritize the girl child and we leave the boy child, we will end up building an unequal future. Because at the end of the day, the girl child will be on 80 and the boy child will be on 20. And that's the kind of world we want. We want equality. So as a society, I feel that is one thing we need to pay attention to in our pursuit for gender equality. Let us not, end up building an unequal world. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you on that because I also feel that if we want, so we're training our girls for the future, we want them to be able to build and develop. But then if you're not training the boys, how are the boys also going to know what they're expected to do to also make sure that they are being kind people, even just in society in general? So I think it's also really important, which is why I believe that your initiative is really great. And possibly more initiatives also need to be looked like this because sometimes some boys are just neglected, so they turn into the wrong channels on what to build or what to develop, and from there, sorry, yeah, and from there, they are kind of now lost because they don't know the next steps to take, which is why I think that your initiative is really important. And I think that now leads me to my next question. What kind of challenges have you had so far running a boys-focused initiative in Nigeria as a lady yourself?
That's an interesting question. Okay. One challenge, just list, I have a couple of them, but I'll just list one. One challenge is first getting people to actually believe in this vision, right? Because, like you said, sometimes so why are you advocating for the boy child? So I think that's one issue I I encounter most times as a girl child that is advocating for boys in Nigeria. And then the second one is actually getting people to, like I stated, is actually getting people to volunteer for this cause, because many times people just they want to focus more on the girl child. So most times when you tell them, oh, the boy child, they're like, what about the girls? What will happen to the girls? And it takes a lot of convincing to actually tell them that, see how it's supposed to be. We need to, bring in this balance. And the third one would be finance, yes, fund to carry out a couple of projects. Finance is very, very important because most times we deal with boys in rural communities who oftentimes have not cleared their fees, because for my boys initiative also deals in academic support. So finance is one thing that is also an issue. But generally, I don't think I have so many challenges or struggles as a girl child that is working in the boys' education sector. Right. I don't think I have so many of them because it's a very, I see it as a very interesting part, very, very interesting and sweet part. Trust me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Precious. Yes, I completely understand that sometimes people would wonder, okay, so where are the girls in this? But I really like that you've been able to carve a niche for yourself, because I would say that what you do right now isn't very common. I think you're probably one of the very few people I know, especially as a girl yourself. I think you're probably the only lady I currently know that is working in the boy child sector. I know that I will sometimes see guys working in the boy child sector for education, but I think at the moment you're probably one of the only few ladies I know. So I really do think that your work is quite inspiring and interesting and also important. So I think it's a really good thing that you're doing. I would like to now talk more about the activities that For My Boys do. So what kind of programs do you currently work on? What kind of activities do you do to support boys from rural communities, just so that our audience will be able to know?
All right. Thank you for that question. So, we have a couple of projects we run just so that we are well structured. Um, And so far, we have about four of them. And the first one is Project Discovery. Project Discovery is a secondary school project that is targeted at boys in secondary schools, where we talk to them about purpose discovery, identity issues, self-respect, self-esteem, and all of that. That is what Project Discovery is centered on. And then we also have the Boys Leading Change project. So the Boys Leading Change project is actually targeted at boys in junior secondary schools, rural junior secondary schools in Abuja, Nigeria. And what we do is we go to these schools, we place a team of 7 boys, where they find a problem in their school or in their community and a solution to that problem. So it is not just we're not just motivating boys, we're not just telling them to speak out, we're also making sure they are change makers in their schools and also in their community. And that is what Boys Leading Change project is all about. And the third one is the Beyond the Desk project. And trust me, is I have all these projects actually nice, important project, but this is actually my favorite project because we work with boys who are drifting academically. So we go to a particular school in a rural community, we pick like a team of 25 to 30 boys and work with them for 12 weeks.
Mm.
And within that 12 weeks, we help them rediscover their purpose, re-engage them back to class through change-making activities. So the boys actually still hear me. Hope you can still hear me.
Hi, I lost you for a
Can you
second. I think the last thing I
hear?
heard was beyond the desk, but then you got frozen from my screen. So you were
Okay.
talking about what the Beyond the Desk initiative was about, what the project was about, but then after that it just went frozen.
Okay. So did you hear the part when I said it's a 12 weeks program?
Yes, but then it was a bit glitchy. So I don't know, maybe if you would like to go over that part again, I'll just cut it out when I'm editing.
All right, no problem. So Beyond the Desk is actually a 12-week program where we work with boys in rural communities. Um boys between like 25 to 30 boys in numbers, and we work with them for 12 weeks. And this is a way of us re-engaging them back to class, right? We'll be engaging them um through change making skills, change making activities. Because most times when we were looking at statistics, and of course, when it comes to education in Nigeria, the statistics is right now about 7.6 million girls are out of school in Nigeria, and then 7.4 million boys are also out of school in Nigeria. But what we fail to forget is that being in school does not mean learning, or does not mean that that particular boy is actually engaged in class. So for instance, we might actually have about 40 girls that are in school, that are actively in school, like they pay attention to classroom works and all of that. And we have
Mm.
about 80 or 70 boys are in school. Out of that 70 boys, we just have like 25% of them are actually active in class. So Beyond the Desk is just more of creating awareness and also re-engaging these boys who are drifting away academically, either because of pressures, family issue, the survivor tactics, and all of that. It's just a way of us re-engaging them to class through change making skills, and also lifting their dignity in the classroom, to show that they are not limited by the fact that they're actually sitting down behind the desk, but they have every chance to go beyond. And that's what the Beyond the Desk project is about. And lastly, we have the international, the Boys Nexus Conference. So the Boys Nexus Conference is in celebration of the International Day of the Boy Child, because in as much as we have so many conferences about the girl child, we have little or no conference that actually celebrates the boy child. So we have a day set aside, that's May 16th, which is actually the World International Day of the Boy Child. And we celebrate these boys, also get them to pitch the boy projects, and get them to pitch their ideas, their solutions, and all of that during the Boys Nexus conference. So far, these are the 4 activities we do to ensure that we empower young boys in rural communities and also young boys in Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Precious. I think I've just been really inspired hearing more about the project that you're working on and the different activities that you're doing. And then I'm hoping that as more people listen in to this episode, they're also inspired and probably see how they could also support the For My Boys initiative and all the work that you're doing. And now on to my next question. I'd love to know, what challenges do you currently think that boys face, maybe in Nigeria or just in general? What are some of the common challenges you think boys in school usually face?
Mm. Okay, thank you. That's another interesting question. Ah, a couple of them. The first one, issues, identity issues. Find it difficult to understand who they truly are, because the society keeps telling them who they are not. Especially when you work with boys in rural communities, usually that they have the mindset of, I want to hustle, I want to make money, I want this, I want to do that. And you will not blame them. It's because of the situation in which they found themselves. So some of them don't even want to go to school. And even if they want to go to school, they just want something to hold on to. They just want that certificate, or at least I tried and I finished secondary school. Right. So one issue these boys struggle with is identity issues. They don't understand what their purpose is on earth, because they are forced to believe that they are just meant to, provide and all of it. That's one issue these boys face. And then the second one would be education, limited access to education. And I think I've gone through that part in the first point I made. Limited access to education. A lot of boys, in most times we see that girls are often in school, are often not in school rather, especially in northern Nigeria and all of that. But when you check, you realize that, like I said, these boys that are actually in school, what is their engagement level? That's the term. What is their engagement level in the classroom? I remembered when I was working for I was working on one project like that, I and my team members, and we went to a particular school, and then we're asking the GNC teacher, we're asking that, okay, who are the students that actually, the male student that are active in class that can actually do, work on a particular project like this. And then she sat me down, she told me, I'll be very honest with you. If you want me to pick 10 girls that are very, very good, they will do this project, they will execute it. If you want me to identify them right now and here, I would do it in a split of minutes. But you see, for the boys, especially the boys in this school, according to that, just saying what she said, it will be very difficult for me to even pick at 4. And I was shocked because you realize that if the number of boys, and most times right now in secondary schools, in schools, check the number of boys that are in school, you will realize that dropping. They are not interested in schoolwork anymore. And you see that there is higher number of girls in school than the number of boys that are in school. And even the ones that are there, they are not engaging in school activities. So this is the second issue. These are 2 issues I would just like to point out that I believe boys in Nigeria and boys in especially rural community, to be precise, often struggle with.
Thank you so much, Precious. I think from everything I'm hearing, if I should basically take away from what you're trying to do, I would say that one thing I can really understand from what you're trying to do, you're really trying to make boys more meaningful in the society, because even though they have the opportunities to do so, quote unquote, a lot of them are actually not channeling their energy into the right things that are important. So I think from what I understand what you're trying to do, you're trying to make sure that the boys don't grow up to be older and become useless men in society. I think if I was to sum everything up, that's kind of how I would put it. And leading on to my next question now, have you ever gotten any backlash from people when you tell them about the work you do, or any mixed reactions when you tell them that your focus is on the boy child? And how have you been able to handle that if yes?
Mm. Okay, thank you. Not really. I've actually not experienced so many backlash. I only experienced shock. That's oh, why the boy child and all of that. That's a common expression I get oftentimes. And one way I do that is I just use my story. I use storytelling to tell the stories of these boys through my lens, through For My Boys initiative. I just tell them this is why this is actually important. That is one way I handle it. And also trying to make them understand that the fact that I'm a girl child doesn't mean I wouldn't want to make impact in the life of boys. Change making is gender. Whether you're a girl or you're a boy child, you can actually see a problem in the society and you just want to work towards it. So yeah.
Thank you, Precious. And now on to my next question. What's next? Actually, before what's next, what advice would you give to any young person who wants to start an initiative in their own community, especially if their focus is on the boy child, or if they want to start a situation or start a solution in their community whereby it's not very common, but they still feel it's really important to work on? What advice would you give to them?
Mm. Thank you for that question. So oftentimes, when people ask me, how do I work in this empowerment sector and all of that, the first thing I would say is identify your why. Why do you want to? Why do you want to address this problem? Why? Why is this a problem? And how do you want to? The why is actually a very a very, very big question that a lot of people don't even answer before they venture into change-making activities. You need to understand your why properly, and you need to know how to tell your why. So if you don't understand your why can be, oh, for my own personal story was because of the struggles, the things I got to experience in secondary school. I saw my male classmates experience. So why? Some people they want to actually venture into just so they can either get awards or maybe recognition, or so they can be given maybe certain opportunities, travel globally and all of that. So if that is just your reason, then I think your reason is not as strong enough. So you need to identify your why properly, because your why is more like the foundation on which your whatever initiative you want to start is built upon. So is if you've concluded that okay, it will be for the boys education, which sector, which might be, or maybe the boy child in quotes, where do you want to fall in? Do you want to fall in education? Do you want to fall in empowerment? Do you want to fall in there's so many, so it's divided. So identify your why and for whom, the boy child, and where precisely. Are you talking about crime? Are you trying to, some people can say, okay, I want to start a foundation, or rather an organization that will help the boy child properly understand climate change and all of that. So it's, you need to understand why, you know, a particular sector you want to dive into. For me, I work in the education sector, and education is actually broad as well because you have the climate education and all of that. So you need to identify all these things. And then the third one would be build your team. Yes, you need to build your team. It can be, your team can actually be just 3 people, can be 2 people, right? Or you can also be the only person. But then you need to have people that will understand your vision. They are very, very important. It will drive your vision faster, right? So identify your team members, and then please and please, I think if you've even done all these things, the next thing for you to do will be to start. Just shoot. You don't have to.
Yes.
You will get to learn on the job. Trust me, you will learn on it. You might think you already know everything, or you already have everything figured out until you start working. That's when you now realize that, oh, these are actually some places I need to fill up. Right. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you very much, Precious. I think these are really important points you've been able to highlight. And I always tell people to just start, which I think is really important. And I love that you're able to also highlight this too. So sometimes people just think, I don't have all the resources, or where do I begin from? But then as you start, you again get more clarity. Okay, I've started this is how I can improve, this is how I can get better. And now that leads me to my last question for you for today. What's next for my boys initiative, and how can people support your mission and support the work that you currently do?
Mhm. Okay. Um, what next for us? We've been working on a project recently, and one of the things we want to do is to reach as much boys as we can, especially in rural areas in Nigeria. That'll be one thing we want to achieve as we keep growing, because we keep growing on this job. We keep learning, we keep identifying problems, right? So that'll be one step for us to work more with boys in rural community. And if you want to support for my boys initiative, please follow us on our social media page, on Instagram, on Facebook, everywhere for my voice initiative, and support the work we do by telling more people about us, right? Tell more people about us, tell more people that there's actually an organization that is focused on the boy child. And yeah, that'll be one thing. Support us in every way, support us financially, support us in whatever capacity you have. Yeah.
Thanks, Precious. And are you currently also looking for volunteers, or how do people, if people want to join the work you're doing, how do they go about that?
Yeah, so if you go to our Instagram page, there is a link on our bio that has a form you can fill if you want to volunteer for my boys initiative. And it's actually a very rigorous process. So it's something you have to, think through properly before you just click on that link. Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. It's been so lovely speaking with you today, Precious. And I think my last question is, are there any final words you'd like to share to anyone? Just your points of inspiration to anyone who's listening or watching the podcast.
Okay. One thing I want to say is this. I want you to say education. Education shouldn't be optional, and every child deserves a right to education, first off. And secondly, if you have anything or any idea that you've been nurturing for a while, it will keep remaining an idea if you don't shoot. If you don't execute, it will just keep sleeping on that journal. That journal you've been keeping for so many years now. It will keep sleeping on it. So that idea you have, please execute. Don't just keep it. Execute those ideas. Don't wait till you, like I said, don't wait till you have everything figured out, because you will keep learning. You will keep learning on this job. And please make room for learning. Make room for learning. Be eager to learn. Read books. Work on yourself regularly. Check some of those lapses that you think you want to work on yourself rather, as an individual. So yes, that would be all for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Precious. It's been so lovely having you here with me today. And all of Precious's social media handles be linked below. So make sure you follow. Also, look for My Voice Initiative, Instagram, Facebook page. They would all be linked below. So please make sure you follow. You could also reach out to her if you'd like support for My Voice Initiative. And on that note, we come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you in our next episode. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.